There are still so many things we don't know about our own planet Earth. For example, most people think that Earth is a perfect sphere. But in reality, that's not true. Because our Earth is an oblate spheroid, it's shaped like a ball that's slightly squished from the top and bottom. Because of this, the middle of our planet is wider compared to both poles. The equatorial diameter of our Earth is approximately 12,754 kilometers. Meanwhile, the polar diameter is around 12,711 kilometers. The difference may sound small, but think about it. That's still almost 43 kilometers apart. And that's not all. Of all the planets in the solar system, Earth has the highest density, or the materials inside Earth are more compact. The next densest planet is Mercury. Under our feet, each layer of the planet moves differently. The core, mantle, and crust of Earth do not rotate at the same speed. This means they have their own movements inside the planet. And what's even more surprising is that almost half of the total weight of Earth's crust is oxygen. But this isn't the oxygen we breathe. Instead, it's trapped inside the rocks and minerals found deep within the Earth. Meanwhile, around 25% is silicon, and the remaining part is a mix of elements that make up the world as we know it today. And actually, the Earth's crust is also very thick. Under most continents, it reaches around 35 to 45 kilometers. But under large mountain ranges, its thickness can reach up to 75 kilometers. And as you go deeper and deeper, the conditions become even more brutal. At the very center of Earth's core, the density of matter reaches around 12.5 tons per cubic meter. Meanwhile, the pressure there is terrifying. At 3.7 million atmospheres, it means it's almost impossible for any known life form to survive or live there. It's funny to think that humans have already been to the moon, we've sent robots to Mars, and we've also explored the deepest parts of the ocean. But when it comes to the very bottom of the Earth, we barely know anything. It seems like we know outer space better than the world right beneath our feet. And just to get a glimpse into the depths of the Earth's crust, a massive expedition is needed. It's almost as difficult as sending a mission into space. In the past, there have been several projects that attempted to dig into the deepest parts of the planet. And what's surprising is that they made discoveries that truly changed scientific thinking. So today we'll take a look at one of the deepest and most dangerous projects ever attempted by humans. But before we start, don't forget to like our video. It means a lot to us content creators. Thank you very much, and now let's get started. First of all, what is really beneath the Earth? Is there a possibility that there is life in the deepest parts of the planet? And what are the strange things that have been discovered there? Throughout the history of mining and studying beneath the Earth, most excavations were done for practical reasons. Usually the goal was to find oil, gas, or valuable minerals. But there are some projects that aren't after money, just pure science, and often they're the ones with the deepest holes. As regular commercial drilling goes deeper, scientists already know that they won't be able to get anything more from the deepest parts. No more oil, no more gas, no more minerals worth extracting. And that's where true scientific exploration begins. For now, we can say that humanity is just beginning to study the true depths of the Earth. In fact, even the deepest hole ever dug by humans still hasn't reached the mantle of the planet. Because the Earth's continental crust can be around 30 kilometers thick, or even more. It would have been easier to do this under the ocean because the oceanic crust is thinner. In some places, it's only about 5 kilometers thick. So in the 1960s, the Americans tried a project called Project Mohole. Their goal was to drill through the ocean floor and reach the Earth's mantle. But it wasn't successful. Many years passed, and in the early 2000s, Japan tried this again through the Chikyu project. This was a very advanced drilling mission with the goal of reaching deeper than any previous project. But no matter how advanced their technology was, they still weren't able to fully reach the mantle. Even so, when it comes to the possibility of actually reaching the Earth's core, Honestly, it really seems like science fiction. If you think about it and really accept it, we're still very far from that. The Earth's outer core is around 2,900 kilometers beneath the surface. It's almost impossible to imagine how deep that is. To help us understand, think of it this way. The International Space Station, or ISS, orbits the Earth at a height of only around 400 kilometers from the planet. That means it's actually easier for people to go to outer space than to reach the core of our own world. And even now, with technology being so advanced, no one has ever done it. But there's one project that almost became legendary when it comes to deep drilling: the Kola Superdeep Borehole. Up to now, the Kola Superdeep still holds the world record as the deepest hole ever dug by humans on the entire planet. Its final depth reached around 12,262 meters. And even though many modern projects have followed after it, none have beaten that record. What's even more impressive is that it wasn't done to look for oil or gas. The only reason it was dug was for pure scientific research. The scientists wanted to study the oldest and deepest rocks on Earth. They were hoping they might discover information about what the planet looked like when it was still very young. For the project, they chose a place near the Kola Peninsula in Russia, which is part of what is called the Baltic Shield. This place is special because it is where some of the oldest volcanic and igneous rocks on Earth can be found. Some of those rocks are estimated to be around 3 billion years old. To understand how old that is, the Earth itself is estimated to be around 4.5 billion years old. That means, as they dig down into this ancient geological formation, it's like they're going back to the very earliest times of the planet. It's like they're peeking into the childhood of the Earth. The drilling started on May 24, 1970, and it wasn't a fast process. It took them 4 years before they reached a depth of around 7,263 meters. At first, they used drilling equipment that is commonly used in oil and gas extraction. But as the operation went deeper and deeper, they needed to create a more advanced system. They installed a new turbine drilling rig. In this setup, the entire drilling pipe doesn't rotate. Only the drill bit rotates. Only the drill head at the end rotates. This is very important because of the extreme depth. The pressure and weight of the entire drilling system are enormous. The turbine they used is around 46 meters long. At the very end of it is a drill head with a diameter of around 214 millimeters. And its design is also unique. It doesn't crush the entire rock. Instead, it leaves a solid part in the middle called the core. This core has a diameter of around 60 millimeters. This is the most important part of the whole project, because through these rock samples, scientists are able to study the composition and history of the Earth as they go deeper and deeper. Inside the turbine, there is a special pipe that runs from top to bottom to lift the collected rocks from underground. And as the drilling goes deeper, the whole operation becomes even more dangerous. The entire drilling string, including the drilling fluid, weighs around 200 tons. And take note, they even use special light alloy pipes here, because if they only used ordinary steel pipes, the whole structure would break just from its own weight. And of course, as the digging into the Earth's crust goes deeper and deeper, more and more accidents and unexpected problems also occur. One of the biggest tragedies in the history of the Kola Superdeep happened after the team temporarily stopped their work. On September 27, 1984, some of the scientists and engineers left to attend the International Geological Congress in Moscow. That seemed normal enough. But when they returned, that's when the biggest problem of the whole project began. It was as if the Earth wouldn't forgive them for leaving the hole unattended for so long. While the drilling operations were stopped, there were some parts of the well wall that still weren't reinforced with cemented steel pipes. Because of this, some sections at the bottom started to deform and collapse. When the team returned, they continued the work as usual. First, they tried to pull up the very long drilling column, but while they were lifting it, it suddenly got stuck inside the well. And when they forced it out, the entire drilling assembly broke. Included in what was left buried underneath were a turbo drill and almost 5 kilometers of drill pipes. In an instant, 5 years of their work was almost wasted. Imagine that. That's a huge piece of equipment. It's buried very deep, and it's almost impossible to pull it back out. But the team didn't give up. They tried several times to create a new drilling path to avoid the part where the equipment got stuck. This is a common technique in deep drilling called sidetracking. Instead of forcing the old path, they create a new route from a higher part of the well. But the process wasn't easy. They repeatedly experienced accidents, equipment breakdowns, and dead ends underground. Because of this, the Kola Superdeep is not just a simple straight hole going down. In fact, it is more like a giant underground maze with many branches and turns in different directions. It's like a strange planet with interconnected tunnels beneath the Earth. It even took them another 6 years before they were able to reach the depth of 12 kilometers again. And in 1990, they reached the final record depth of around 12,262 meters. At that time, it was already considered an engineering miracle. But even at that depth, it still didn't reach even half the thickness of the Earth's crust in the continents. Because the Earth's crust on land can reach around 30 kilometers thick. And it's even crazier to think that beneath that is the mantle, which is almost 3,000 kilometers thick. With how big the Earth is, it turns out that what humans have done on the planet's surface is just like a thin scratch. After that, more problems and accidents happened one after another. The engineers gradually lost hope that they could dig any deeper than that. At that point, they had almost done everything possible with the technology of that time. And it was as if there was a limit that the Earth really didn't want to be crossed. It was as if the planet itself was refusing to reveal its deeper secrets. So in 1992, the drilling operations were finally stopped. But even though they didn't reach the original target of 15 kilometers, the Kola Superdeep was still a huge success when it comes to science. With almost every meter they dug, they discovered new information about the Earth's interior. For example, they found industrial deposits of copper and nickel ore at a depth of around 1.6 kilometers. But their next discovery was even more surprising. At a depth of around 9.5 kilometers, they found a subsurface geochemical anomaly, a rock layer with a high gold content. It contains around 1 gram of gold per ton of rock. The problem is it's so deep that mining it isn't practical. Digging would cost more than the gold you could get. But for science, that discovery is still very important. And the project didn't just change what we know about minerals. What's even more important is how it changed our understanding of the actual structure of the Earth's crust. Before the drilling started, the scientists first made a geological prediction about what the layers beneath the ground would be like. But as they went deeper, almost all of their expectations were proven wrong, one by one. The layer they expected to end at the first 5 kilometers actually extended up to 7 kilometers. And after this, instead of finding denser and harder basalt tracks, they encountered a different kind of rock. What's even more surprising is that even when they reached a depth of 12 kilometers, they still hadn't found the basalt layer, a different kind of rock. Before the project even started, they already used deep seismic scanning to study the underground. Based on the results, scientists believe that there's a part underground where granite transitions into the basalt layer. And that's the zone where they saw the strongest seismic reflection. But when they actually reached that depth, their previous interpretation turned out to be completely wrong. Instead of hard basalt rocks, the rocks they found had lower density. They were also full of fractures and cracks. This means that many things scientists thought were certain about the depths of the Earth were suddenly proven wrong. This discovery really surprised the scientific community. No one expected what they found beneath the Earth. In fact, many of the previous beliefs about deep geology had to be changed after the results from the Kola Superdeep came out. And because of this, scientists began to look at old geophysical studies conducted in different parts of the world from a new perspective. But getting information from such a deep place wasn't easy. One of the hardest challenges was bringing up rock samples from below, just like the core samples we mentioned earlier. When these are lifted from the very deep parts of the earth, the pressure surrounding the rock suddenly drops, and because of that, even granite, which is very strong, still gets crushed as it rises to the surface. Imagine that granite, one of the hardest rocks in the world, can break on its own just because of extreme changes in pressure. Because of this, sometimes scientists have to raise core samples very slowly. In some cases, it even takes several days, just to keep the rock intact and prevent its structure from being damaged before it reaches the surface. But they were even more surprised by another thing, the temperature deep within the earth. At first, scientists expected the temperature to rise by about 11 degrees Celsius per kilometer as the drilling went deeper. But as they reached depths of around 2.2 to 7.5 kilometers, everything suddenly changed. The temperature increase went up to around 24 degrees Celsius per kilometer. It was much hotter than their original calculations. At a depth of around 5 kilometers, the temperature was already about 70 degrees Celsius. And when they reached around 12 kilometers, the heat reached almost 220 degrees Celsius. This was much higher than what science expected at that time. And the shocking discoveries didn't end there. In the depths that were once believed to have no organic life at all, they found 14 types of fossilized microorganisms. This means there are traces of what they call ancient microscopic life forms beneath the earth. And what's even more mind-blowing is that the rock layers where these microorganisms came from are estimated to be over 2.8 billion years old. They're even older than most of the life we know today. In even deeper areas where there are no more sedimentary rocks, researchers also found extremely high concentrations of methane gas. And until now, they're still studying how it formed in such a deep place. But all of this is just a small part of the discoveries at the Kola Superdeep. In the end, the project made one thing clear. We actually know less about our own planet than we thought. And aside from being the world record holder for depth, the Kola Superdeep also became the center of one of the most famous conspiracy theories in the world. According to a viral story, as the drilling operation went deeper, they supposedly heard a strange sound from beneath the earth. Supposedly, they were screams, sounds that seemed to come from hell. There was even an audio recording that circulated on the internet back then. And because of this, the conspiracy theory quickly spread that the scientists had accidentally dug straight into hell. But in reality, this isn't true. It's just a big internet hoax. First of all, there were no microphones attached to the drilling equipment of the Kola Superdeep. What they had were sensors that measured vibrations, pressure, and various environmental fluctuations underground. These were not used to record actual sound like normal audio recorders do. So those so-called screams from hell that spread online have no scientific evidence proving they really came from the Kola Superdeep. Second, the original source of the story about the drilling rig going to hell was a Finnish newspaper. And there's a very important detail here. They published the article on April 1st, April Fool's Day. That means there's a big possibility it was just a joke or a prank from the very beginning. But because the story spread quickly, many people believed it and turned the whole story into a conspiracy theory. But even though the Hell Sound story is fake, there were actually some real strange events that happened at the Kola Superdeep. And it's possible that those were the inspiration for the people who made the hoax. One of the most mysterious incidents was a major accident that happened underground, under unexplained circumstances. According to academician David Guberman, the director of the Kola Superdeep Research and Production Center, there was an incident there that even they themselves had a hard time explaining. In an interview, David Guberman said that when he was asked about this mysterious story at UNESCO, he didn't know how to answer. He said that most of the stories are nonsense. But as a scientist, he also couldn't say that he knew exactly what happened. According to him, they recorded a strange noise underground before there was a loud explosion. But what's more mysterious is that when they returned to the same depth after a few days, They didn't find any trace of the incident. It was as if it just suddenly disappeared. And because of this, even more speculations arose about the Kola Superdeep. Who really knows what truly happened beneath the earth? In 1995, the project was finally closed and the well itself was sealed. And perhaps, according to some, it might be the future generation of scientists who will once again uncover the mystery left behind by the Kola Superdeep. While the Soviet Union was busy with their ultra-deep drilling project, there was also an American project that almost reached a depth of 10,000 meters. In 1974, an ultra-deep well in the Anadarko Oil Basin in Oklahoma reached around 9,583 meters. And at that time, that was already a world record. Even more surprising, their progress was incredibly fast. It only took them around 502 days to reach such a depth. This was a huge achievement at that time. The project was funded by the Lone Star Company, and they spent around $15 million. That was a huge amount in the 1970s. But despite all the expenses and effort, the project also turned out to be a huge failure because their real goal was to find oil. But instead of oil, they discovered something else. As the drilling turbine went deeper, it suddenly entered a massive underground reservoir of molten sulfur. It was like a burning sea beneath the earth. Because of this, many people back then compared the place to the underworld or hell because of the extreme heat and unusual conditions underground. But since it had no commercial value, the project was quickly shut down, and that's where its story ended. But after a decade, there was another, even more unusual project carried out on the other side of the world, the Swedish project. In the 1980s, a strange scientific theory emerged about the origin of oil and natural gas. Most scientists at that time believed that fossil fuels were formed from ancient plants and organisms that were buried underground for a very long time. But there were some researchers who had a different belief. According to their theory, it's possible that oil and gas did not only come from biological materials. It's also possible that these come directly from the Earth's mantle. They called this the mantle fluid hypothesis. According to this idea, there are superheated gases and liquid mixtures full of hydrocarbons that form in the mantle and slowly rise up to the Earth's crust. And if this is true, it means there could be oil and gas deposits even in volcanic and metamorphic rocks, not just in sedimentary layers. This would have been a huge discovery for science and the oil industry, so the project quickly received funding. Sweden decided to conduct a large experiment to test the theory. They chose the Siljan Ring crater as the drilling site. It's a massive impact crater with a diameter of around 52 kilometers. Based on geophysical data, there are calcined granites at a depth of around 500 to 600 meters, and there might be a hydrocarbon reservoir beneath it. The scientists used highly accurate gravity measurements to study the density and composition of the rocks underground. And according to their calculations, there are highly porous rocks at a depth of around 5 kilometers. Rocks that could possibly be full of oil and gas. Everything seemed promising. But when the drilling started, the results were very disappointing. The investors and scientists who put around $60 million into the project got almost nothing because they didn't find any commercial oil reserves. All they found were small and scattered amounts of oil and gas that were clearly biological in origin, not from the mantle. Because of this, the project was also shut down in 1990. But even though the project failed, there was one discovery there that is still being talked about today. On July 11, 1987, while the team was trying to remove a leftover drill line underground, they noticed a strange substance on their equipment. When they lifted the drill pipe to the surface, they were shocked when they saw that the inside of its lower section was filled with a sticky black substance. It looked like black jelly or thick asphalt, and its weight was around 60 kilograms. It was retrieved from a depth of around 5,945 meters. Scientists immediately studied it. Based on the initial analysis, its main component is magnetite mixed with paraffinic hydrocarbons. Even more surprising, they also found biomarkers similar to those previously discovered around the Siljan Ring crater. Because of this, Some researchers have put forward a very bold theory. It's possible that the black material is a product of underground bacteria that use non-biological hydrocarbons from the mantle as part of their life cycle. If this can be proven, it would be a world sensation because it could change our understanding of oil formation and underground life. But not everyone believed it. Many skeptics opposed the theory, and as the investigation went on, a simpler explanation began to emerge. Scientists found out that a week before the black substance was discovered, the drilling team actually used a special mixture of commercial soda, polymers, and biodegradable lubricants to loosen the stuck drill string at the same depth. That chemical mixture circulated inside the system for almost a day, and after that, the drill pipe got stuck again. After a deeper chemical analysis, it was found that the mysterious black jelly did not actually come from the mantle or underground bacteria. It turned out to be just a product of intense pressure, heat, chemical reactions, and mechanical stress underground. The ordinary biodegradable lubricants, when mixed with caustic soda, diesel fuel, and hydrocarbons from local water sources, transformed into a strange substance they did not expect. This just showed how extreme the conditions are deep within the earth, because under extremely high pressure and heat, even ordinary materials can become something that seems like it's no longer from this world.